breaking news, NASCAR will add horsepower to the Cup Series cars next year at a bunch of different tracks. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove, presented by Tableau TV. Pay once, watch forever. Ton of stories to hit on this afternoon. We'll begin with some breaking news. NASCAR officials released this statement today. Quote, NASCAR competition officials announced Wednesday that the target horsepower for Cup Series events at road courses and oval tracks less than 1.5 miles in length will increase to 750 in the 2026 season. Wow, at all road courses and tracks under 1.5 miles in length. That's a pretty wide scope. Here's a full list of tracks this will impact. So Coda, Watkins Glen, San Diego, Sonoma, the Roval, all the road course races, increased horsepower. Then the ovals of Bowman Gray, Phoenix, Darlington, Martinsville, Bristol, Dover, Nashville, North Wilkesboro, Iowa, Richmond, New Hampshire, Gateway. Love seeing Darlington on this list, Gateway on this list, and especially places like Phoenix as well. A track I think could use anything to spice up the action, but seeing those bigger tracks in addition to the short ovals is a welcome sight to see. Darlington is a challenging track on its own. It's even more challenging when you gotta hustle a little extra horsepower around that place lap after lap after lap. I don't really mind that the larger ovals are excluded from this update, like the racing at Kansas, Charlotte, for example, been pretty great the past couple of seasons. It was the short tracks and the road courses that specifically needed that little extra seasoning. NASCAR President Steve O'Donnell was on the Dale Jr. Download podcast this week. I haven't gotten through the full episode. What I have listened to, he covers a variety of hot topics, major issues. We will break down everything in tomorrow's episode, but as it pertains to this new horsepower increase, O'Donnell addressed why 750 is the goal and not, say, 900 plus. O'Donnell told Dale Jr., quote, if you went beyond 750 horsepower, we looked at almost a $40 to $50 million cost to the industry. He alluded to not wanting to scare off Dodge, who we know is pushing to re-enter the Cup Series, or any other potential OEMs like Honda, who's been rumored in recent years. He does say there will be a combined Goodyear/horsepower test at North Wilkesboro Speedway this offseason. Big news today, for sure, and it's great to hear NASCAR make it official. They've been alluding to this change for months now, but now it's real. It's happening 2026 at a variety of tracks. The reason NASCAR originally lowered the horsepower starting roughly, a decade ago, there were two main reasons actually. One of them NASCAR may never fully admit to, but one of the reasons simply was saving costs. The idea behind lowering the horsepower meant less wear and tear on the engines. That was also part of the less practice initiative we've seen post-COVID, saving these teams money, cutting back on the engine bills. That was the original idea. But the second, more devious reason for lower horsepower is that NASCAR wanted closer racing. When they reduced the horsepower at most intermediates to 550 a few years back, the goal was to create essentially what Atlanta Motor Speedway is today. And remember, the next gen car was originally going to debut at 550 horsepower across most tracks. It wasn't until one of those final off-season tests before the 2022 season that NASCAR threw up their hands and said, damn it, we got to do something, and they put an extra 100 horsepower in the cars. The goal was always closer racing. But now, in the era of a spec car, everyone has equal equipment, shared data, everyone has the same information. Now the problem is the racing is too close, and now it's too hard to pass. It's too hard for stars to separate themselves. So that's why now a course correction was needed. We need tires that wear more. That's been a NASCAR and Goodyear initiative that's gone a positive direction this year. We need more horsepower, more variables that would allow the best teams and the best drivers on a given week to separate themselves from the pack. NASCAR wanted the racing to be close. It arguably got too close, too equal, so now they've course corrected. Credit to NASCAR for admitting they had a problem. Maybe took them a couple years too long, but hey, better late than never. Is 750 horsepower as opposed to the 670 we have now gonna move the needle dramatically? Probably not. I think it was Tyler Reddick last year who infamously said you'd need 1,000 horsepower in these cars to see a notable difference. Maybe he's right, maybe he's not. Regardless, going from 670 to 750, one is an easy sell to the fans, and at least directionally, it's moving the sport back down the correct path. More horsepower typically means harder to drive. These are supposed to be the best stock car racers in the world. Give them a challenge. Big industry news today. A couple other topics I want to take on before I take off. Harrison Burton and AM Racing will part ways at the end of this season. This was their first year together. They qualified for the NASCAR Xfinity Series playoffs on points, but were eliminated last weekend after the first round. Harrison released a statement saying, "I want to thank AM Racing, Tim Self, and Wade Moore for the opportunity and trust at a pivotal moment in my career after I lost my cup seat entering 2025. He mentions that this year they've set team best records in top 5s, top 10s. They made the playoffs, of course, which was huge for this team. Remember where AM Racing was a year and a half ago? Hailie Deegan was in that seat, Xfinity Series rookie. They struggled. When they parted ways with Deegan midway through the season, at that moment, AM Racing was at the bottom of the Xfinity Series owners' point standings. To turn things around that quickly, Harrison Burton absolutely deserves a lot of credit. At the end, Harrison says, quote, "I'm super excited about the next chapter and will announce my plans at a later date." Look at this graphic here in the comments. Blue Deuce here noted in the comments that there's no Ford logo on the fire suit. Yes, that has been photoshopped out, it appears. They suspect he could be going to Junior Motorsports, maybe not. I have no insight as to where Harrison Burton could go, but yes, that combined with Harrison's final statement there suggests he has a ride for next year, and it likely won't be with a blue oval team. He's earned another good opportunity, in my opinion. He won 4 races back in 2020 for Joe Gibbs Racing, moved up to the Cup Series with the Wood brothers. Yes, it was a struggle. They did not get the results. That is true. But he came back down here to Xfinity and made AM Racing relevant once again. And Harrison Burton, he turns 25 years old tomorrow, actually. Happy early birthday, Harrison, if you happen to be watching this. He turns 25 years old. Or should I say 25 years young. Still an extremely young driver with a lot of learning to do, still a lot of growth. I don't think he's reached his ceiling. Wherever Harrison ends up next year, it would probably be either a truck or an Xfinity/O'Reilly Auto Parts Series car. I hope it's a competitive situation. I think Harrison, his ability to bounce back this year after a disappointing Cup tenure is admirable. He's still so young. I think another team should and will take a chance on him. Leave a comment down below. Where do you think Harrison Burton ends up next year? And what happens to AM Racing? Because they have an alliance with Haas Factory Team, but Haas Factory Team is moving to Chevrolet next year. So how does that impact Ford's slim Xfinity Series supply chain? AM Racing, Ryan Sieg, like some of these teams could and maybe are already showing signs of being impacted by Haas and Chevy's decision. So we'll see what comes of Ford and their soon-to-be O'Reilly Auto Parts Series presence, but doesn't look like Harrison Burton will be driving for them in the near future, if that Photoshop job is to be inferred. Lastly, a quick lawsuit discussion. I know for some this topic is getting tiresome, but got to follow up on some news from earlier in the week. Earlier this week, we talked about it. NASCAR asked Judge Kenneth Bell to order another settlement conference. But this time, NASCAR asked for a judge to serve as the mediator. 2311 and Front Row pushed back, urging instead to continue their work with Jeffrey Mishkin. Well, today, Judge Bell did order that NASCAR 2311 and Front Row participate in a settlement conference scheduled for October 21st. However, despite NASCAR's plea, Jeffrey Mishkin, who mediated their last negotiation efforts in August, will once again oversee this meeting. However, Judge Bell did offer a compromise of sorts. Yes, Jeffrey Mishkin will be involved once again, but now Bell himself will also oversee these discussions. 2311 and Front Row's attorney Jeffrey Kessler had this response, quote, "We welcome Judge Bell's decision to bring all parties together to engage in meaningful resolution. We remain open to a settlement that genuinely benefits the sport and its fans. From the outset, our objective has been unwavering to secure lasting stability and growth for every team, their employees, and the sport. It's time for all parties to step up and deliver." So again, this conference is scheduled for October 21st, roughly 2 weeks from today. This could be the closest to an agreement both sides have been since the beginning. The team's statement there about securing lasting stability and growth for the teams make it sound like, once again, their number one goal is to make charters permanent. An idea that Richard Childress endorsed in his declaration last week. I'm sure many other owners would also endorse that idea. The question is, will Jim France budge? Back in 2023, 2024, during the original negotiations over the new charter agreement, the idea of permanent charters was quickly dismissed by France. Would permanent charters alone be enough to make this whole lawsuit, this debacle, go away? Is that all it would really take at this point? I still question who has the leverage here. NASCAR seem to be the ones most aggressively pushing for settlement discussions to continue, while the teams, I feel, have their heels more dug in. Michael Jordan a few weeks ago said he's willing to go down in flames. As we get closer to that December 1st trial date deadline, maybe the picture is becoming clearer. NASCAR's sweating a bit. They don't want to go to court. They're the ones pushing hardest for a resolution. Maybe the teams, talked about this yesterday, maybe the teams have a little bit more leverage now and can ask for a bit greater. We'll see. We will see. But yeah, interesting update, important follow-up to yesterday's news. That's all I've got for today. We will have plenty more to talk about tomorrow. We just scratched the surface of Steve O'Donnell's Dale Jr. download comments. Mike Ford, NASCAR Communications, also made some very interesting comments on the Hauler Talk podcast in terms of race manipulation, the playoff penalties. Lots to break down, lots to discuss. We will get to all of that and more tomorrow. That's it for today. Thanks for tuning in, folks. I'll catch you again real soon. Have a great rest of your day.